So I've spent a little bit of time sanding this now, and I've pretty much got it where I need it to be. You might remember from the last episode, I took a little bit of a chunk out of this top kind of horn section, but I've managed to sand past that, so that's all good now. The only issue I have is there's a chunk been taken out of this lower horn on the back. Now obviously this is going to have binding front and back, so we will kind of trim some of that out. However, it has gone past. Now the issue I could potentially have is when I'm routing in for the binding, my bearing could go into that divot, which would mean I would take a chunk out where I don't want to. So first thing I'm going to do so it can be drying is I'm going to mix up some glue, and I've got a lot of shavings and sawdust knocking about on the bench top, so I'll just literally mix a little bit of that up into a paste, chuck it into that hole so that that's all nicely filled up. All of this is going to be underneath the dark opaque sections of the sunburst anyway, so a little bit of darker filler in there really won't make much of a difference. And I'm literally just going to mix up a little bit of Titebond with some of the finer sawdust from off the bench. I don't need to be in any way precious about this. But this is kind of one of the pitfalls with working with pine like this. It is incredibly soft and can be prone to a little bit of damage here and there. But as you can see, pretty easy to deal with. So I need to leave that now for a couple of hours just to dry up properly. And in the meantime, we can be turning this back over and we can start looking at getting the pickup and the neck pocket routes done, and also the control cavity. And for that, we're going to need the template again. And I've got that lined up pretty much where I need it. So I'm just going to kind of mark out where all these cavities are going. I'm going to mark the front face of the neck pickup because I'm not going to be putting in, or I don't think at least I'm going to be putting in the standard single coil Telecaster pickup in the neck. I'm going to be putting in a humbucker, but I'll use that mark as the starting point for my humbucker route. So we'll just line that up with the line we've just made and the centre lines. And mark that up as well. Now, ordinarily in these builds, I'd now be running off to the drill press with a big set of Forstner bits to hog out all of this material. However, as we now come to understand, that isn't an option because back in the day I didn't have my drill press, so we're going to have to do this just with a normal battery operated hand drill, which does have an impact because that battery operated hand drill won't handle the size of Forstner bit that I might ordinarily use to hog out much of this waste. We're going to have to go with kind of smaller ones and drill an awful lot more holes. But to be honest, it won't actually take that much longer. It just seems more of a faff, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And to get these down to depth, I need to go to about 16mm for the neck pickup. A little bit deeper, probably 18mm for the bridge pickup, and I need to be about 1.5 inches down for the control cavity. So there's quite a lot of material to take out of that one. Now I've got about an 18mm Forstner bit in the drill. It's quite a new one, so I'm thinking it should kind of remove this waste fairly efficiently. I'm going to leave the neck pocket for a little while. We'll drop onto that later once we've got all of these done, because it's basically done off a separate template. So nothing really for it but to just start drilling this waste out. and then break out the router. Okay, so there's the bridge pickup, the neck pickup and the control cavities routed out, and I hope you can see there they've actually routed really, really nicely. This wood is very soft, but if you take it slowly you can get a very nice finish to it. So next up is we need to do exactly the same process but for the neck pocket. And I have a template. This is an old template that I made a while ago, but it is a really nice tight fit for the template that I use for my Telecaster necks, so that's good. And realistically we just need to do exactly the same process with this. Set it in position, mark around it, hog out the waist with a Forstner bit and set the router up and route it down to depth. And the first part of that is we need to actually mark where it's going to end, and on these it's 3 inches from the end of the body. So set that in position. Put our line in and break out the drill again. And again, this is just the same routine we've all seen more than enough times. Super glue, masking tape to stick the template down and just route the waist out. Now you might be wondering what I'm using here. It's just bog standard super glue. I've just put it in a syringe because my super glue bottle hasn't got a functioning spout on it. Okay, so set the router up and get this cleaned out. And just get that template off, and we look to have a really, really nice neck pocket there. And that's a really nice fit for the template, at least. Relatively stepless in that little section. Obviously this will need to be finessed here because that needs a little bit of a shape putting on it, but apart from that we are pretty good, and I'm very happy with the way that that's gone. And I'm just going to give these edges a little bit of a tickle up because they're a little bit furry. But apart from that, this really has routed out really, really nicely. I'm very happy with it. So there's only a couple of little processes that we need to do before we're finished with this section. And this brings me back to my master template. Now you can see in the template I've got this slot here, and early Telecasters had a wiring route in there to enable the wires from the front pickup to go through into the control cavity, and they would put that route in and drill a short hole through there. There is absolutely no need to do that these days. It's a wasted operation, because even from my very first build I had a 5mm drill bit that's 300mm long, so I can drill right the way through from the neck pocket into the front pickup, and then from there into the bridge pickup, and then drill a hole through from the bridge pickup into the control cavity, so all of our wiring can be routed through that way. Worth mentioning as well, on a Telecaster you don't need a ground wire from the bridge through into the control cavity, because the pickup actually grounds onto the bridge itself, so the ground from the pickup works as the ground bridge as well. So realistically it's just a case now chucking up this massive drill bit and just working it through. Which is fairly straightforward. It's still nice and sharp, even though it is quite a few years old now. And this really wasn't a kind of a monstrously expensive buy. I bought a set of these. There's the 5, there's an 8 and there's a 10. I've only ever really used the 5, and I think they were about 10 or 15 pounds on Amazon. They're not much more expensive now, so there really isn't a reason not to have one of those. And you may have seen this trick before that I've used, of using a metal pipe to protect the edge of the pickup route. And I'm also, because sometimes that drill bit will rattle around a little bit in that tube, and while it's not directly cutting into the wood, it's kind of bashing into it and it leaves a little bit of a divot. So I'm just going to strap that palette knife down in position. And we can run this hole into the control cavity. Like that. And that's left an absolutely perfect finish there. And there we have our mostly completed Telecaster body. Obviously there's still a fair bit of work to do because we're going to bind this one, but if this was a standard Telecaster this would be getting very close to finishing. So there are a couple of little bits that I need to do. I need to tidy up the edges of the body as they meet the neck pocket. I'm going to put a little bit of a plug in this hole because we don't need that hole there for any wiring, and it will leave a kind of a little bit of a weakness in that spot. So I'll make a little dowel and I'll glue that in. But apart from that, that is this phase of the work done. So I think this is probably quite a good place to leave this video as well. So I'll be back in a couple of days time. Hopefully this filler will have dried by then and we can get all that sanded off, and then we can start to think about getting this routed and getting the binding fitted. So until then, don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.